Now we want to take a look at a few basic calculations that we can complete in StatCrunch. Each of these calculations are going to be referred to as either measures of center or measures of spread. We're going to be looking at calculating means, standard deviations, medians, interquartile ranges. You may be familiar with some of those words, none of those words. For right now, that doesn't really matter, even though most of this course is going to be centered around interpretation, what these different numbers mean. For right now, we really just want to look at the mechanics of how StatCrunch works so that you've seen some of the basics, and when we start getting into this, you feel a little more comfortable using the software. So for this first homework question, you're going to be asked to find the mean of some given data set. So using this icon, we can open up that data in StatCrunch. And I'm sorry, I think I said mean. We want to find the mean in part A, and in part B, the standard deviation. So again, without worrying too much for right now what those values mean, we can calculate these by clicking on the Stat menu, going to Summary Stats, and then selecting Columns. So what this is going to do is allow us to complete some basic calculations for some summary statistics, so that Summary Stats option, on different columns of data. So we select Summary Stats, and then we need to select the column that we want to calculate. In this case, all of our data is in this var1 or variable1 column, so we'll select that. And then from the list below here under Statistics, we can pick and choose different values that we want to calculate. So specifically for this problem, we want to calculate the mean, so I'll click on that, which just deselected everything else. So I'll click on the mean, and then if I hold the Control key, I can select multiple values at the same time. So now what we're going to calculate is mean and standard deviation, which is abbreviated here, and then just click Compute. So that's going to give me these values. My mean is 14.6667, wherever we want to round that off, and the standard deviation is 9.4375. That process will be the same for any question we want to calculate the mean and standard deviation. We just get the data in StatCrunch and then use that Summary Stats feature. So that problem wanted us to calculate mean and standard deviation. If we skip ahead, now we're going to have questions that ask us to calculate the median, Q1, Q3, and the interquartile range. So the Q1, Q3, interquartile range, I imagine, are not very familiar concepts. Median is something you probably are familiar with. It's another way to find the center of a data set. But again, we don't need to worry about the context of these results. We're just looking at how we generate these numerical results. So we'll click that icon to open this data set in StatCrunch. So we have our list of data. We'll go to Stat, Summary Stats, and then Columns. So all of our data, since this opened up a new window, is again still in that variable1 column. Now what we want to select, though, are some different values here. We want the median, and then if we hold the Control button on the keyboard, we can select Q1, Q3, and IQR. So we have all four of those values that are about to be calculated, and click Compute. And again, StatCrunch is going to output those individual values for us. When we hit Module 3, we'll come back and talk about these different measurements, when we use them, why we use them, what sorts of things they tell us. But for right now, just make sure you're comfortable with the process of generating those numbers, and that should get you through the majority of these homework problems.